Hi, it's Sandy Parker, and welcome to Crafting for Almost Everyone. Well, today we're going to be doing another Jennifer McGuire technique. Yay! It's called negative space coloring, and it's going to be involving a Lost Coast design stamp of a jukebox. Now, one of my friends, well actually it's my cousin Shelly, asked me to do a card of this stamp, and I'm doing it in conjunction with my friend Elishia, and I'm going to link her channel to this because she's also going to be doing a card with the same stamp. So we decided we would play with this stamp and see who came up with what along the lines of how to use the stamp. So we thought it'd be fun to try, and that's what we're doing. And of course, I've turned into Jennifer McGuire, so I'm doing one of her techniques. So what this involves is you're going to take some watercolor paper, which I've done, and you're going to put it in your MISTI, which of course, if you don't have a MISTI, you just need another stamp positioning device that will make sure that you can stamp it in the same spot. We're going to be using a hybrid ink because we're going to be using some alcohol markers, and I want to make sure that they don't smear all over. And this, it doesn't really matter the color of the ink. I'm going to be stamping off on this ink. You just want to be able to see where your image is, and I'm going to try and make it so that I don't have too much color once I stamp it the second time. So I'm going to stamp it once to get most of the ink off, and then I'm going to stamp it again, and that way I'll know how much ink I have left. And I'm doing the first stamping just by running my hand over it, and you can see it's pretty dark, so I'm going to do it maybe one more time. Let's see if we get enough ink that I can see. All you have to be able to do is see the outline of our stamped image. That's all that you care about. You don't care how dark it is. That's not the point. You just need to see the outside seams of this. And I can see enough of it. Perfect. That's all I need to be able to do. And I'm going to take this out and move my MISTI, and hopefully you'll be able to see what I'm talking about, because we don't want, our goal here is to use our image, instead of coloring our image, all I'm going to do is I'm going to put it back in the MISTI, and I'm going to use embossing powder on it, and I'm going to emboss it. And what I'm going to do around the outside of it is we're going to color with our alcohol markers. So we're coloring on the outside. This is opposite of what you're used to. Normally you color the inside, and the outside is not what you color. This way we are coloring the outside and not the inside. Did that even make sense? If it didn't, it will in a minute. So what we're going to do, can you see that? If you can't, I'll hold it up. That's our image. All we're going to do is we're going to go around the image with our markers, and I'm going to do little pieces of it at a time because I want to blend it. And I'm using some Bic Markets because my Spectrum Noirs, I just didn't like the way they looked with it. So I'm trying to do this kind of in a way that you will see if you can do it in an inexpensive way for people who don't have Copics or Spectrum Noirs, and also for people like me that just can't seem to get the blending that we need with the colors that we had. So I do have a lot of colors, but I couldn't get my blending to work well. So what I'm going to do is, first, you can see the blending is not good, but that doesn't matter because what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go back over and blend the three together. If that doesn't work, then we'll take our blender pen, or no, that's not what it's called, our colorless blender, that's what it's called. we'll take our colorless blender and we'll go over the 3 colors together. Then it should look good. I'm not going to make you sit through this in slow-mo. Now that you've seen what I'm doing, I'll have Rich fast forward through it, and then we'll come back after I've gotten further along on this. Okay, now I've got my colorless blender pen, and all we're going to do now is work on blending out the seams so that you don't see the different, the gradations in the color. We want to make sure that everything kind of blends together better. So we're just going to go over the entire image one more time. And if we think we need a little bit more color somewhere, we'll just add a little bit more. If we don't think that it's blending enough, we can just add and again, I'm going to have Rich just fast forward through this so that you don't have to watch all of this. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to dry this up, and then we're going to heat emboss it. The one thing that's really nice about this technique is if after we have embossed it, if we don't like the way our blending looks, we can go in and add more ink to it. But it's better if you emboss it first and then, if you paint it with the markers first, dry it, then emboss it, because you don't want your embossing powder to get onto your tips of your markers. You don't want to ruin your markers doing this. So that's why we're doing it in the way we're doing it. And also, Jennifer did say if you put the embossing powder on and you heat set it, and then you put the markers on it, it can change the color of the embossing powder. So you don't want it to do that. So that's why we're doing it in the order we're doing it in. So let's get the scrap paper out of the way and get our MISTI back, and we'll make sure that we line it up exactly where we had it before. That's the key, is making sure that everything is exactly where you had it in the first place. Making sure everything's lined up. That there. And that one there. Okay, I want to make sure you can see everything. Good. Oops. And I forgot. Darn it. I forgot to do my little pouch. You need to make sure you do the pouch for this section. If you don't, you might end up having some serious problems with getting your embossing powder into your marker. And that's not our plan. Our plan is for this to work out perfectly and to have a really cute image when we're done. Then we're going to, this time, we're going to be using Versamark watermark ink on it, because we're going to be using some silver. This is Stampin' Stuff, sterling silver. Hopefully it'll really look cool with it. That's our goal, because our jukebox has a lot of really neat detail, and I'm hoping that this will really show it off. So we'll roll that out of the way. I hope. Okay. Well, so far I think we can see it. Move this out of the way and get my scrap paper back up here. And put our embossing powder on it. Cross our fingers. Are you crossing your fingers? Because if you're not crossing your fingers, that's a bummer, because I'm going to need you to be crossing your fingers at this juncture. Oh, is that cool? Good thing that you were crossing your fingers, huh? Whew. That's lucky. Okay, I think we're good. I think we're good. I'm very excited. Are you excited? We should be. And we'll heat set this. Let's see how we do. Don't forget, you need to really warm it up before you start. And I like to go to the back when I start. Okay. I think it's so cool, don't you? Now all we need to do is just kind of clean up our edges around the, just to make it look a little bit more, I don't know. I just want to make sure my edges are just a little bit better, cleaner, I don't know, something. And obviously our goal is not to color anything, excuse me, inside the silver. So now we have to be very, very super duper careful to make sure that we don't get anything inside our colored lines. And I like the idea of red when it came to rock and roll, or you know what I mean, like if you're from my age group, when we did have jukeboxes, you played great music. This will show how old I am. When I was little, my dad would take us to this little restaurant that had the machines that were at your table, and you could play music. The little individual machine was at your table, and you would pick whatever songs. And my favorite song, again, this tells you how old I am, was These Boots Are Made for Walking. Loved that song. You want to make sure you don't get, like right there, I just touched it and I got some of the silver to move, and we don't want that again, so I'm not going to do that again. Make sure you don't do it more than once. You can also do this technique with distress ink, and the difference is you would do you would have to make a mask and go around the whole image with your mask. So that's the tricky part, is that mask. Okay, now our job is to trim this down and to figure out what kind of a sentiment I want on it, and I'll be back in just a minute with that. Okay, so I thought it would be cute to put just a note on here because I put this little note up there. I thought that would be cute. So I'm going to put we're going to do white embossing powder on this silver piece of cardstock, and I'm going to try and line up my little stamp there so that it's right on the edge, and so that it's not going to interfere with the it's not going to be crooked, hopefully. That's the goal, not crooked. And if it doesn't work, then we go with plan B. Turn the paper around and do it at the top. It doesn't look too bad. He's heated. I think the one that's that I thought was crooked is the one that came out the best. You just never know, right? Oh, I want to do it right there. Good. Then all we need to do is decide how we want to glue everything down as far as, I don't think I want to do any raising this up on any dimensionals because it's already going to be thick with the paper that I'm using, you know, the watercolor paper. It's already a very thick paper, and I'm putting it on this silver paper, and I only made the silver paper 1/8 of an inch bigger, so our card is 5.5 inches by 4.25. Then this piece is just about 1/8 of an inch bigger than the jukebox, and so then we'll put both of those on here. Okay, so let's put our card together. We're going to make sure it looks right. Sometimes you just don't know. You just want to make sure everything is lined up properly, that's for sure. Sometimes you just can't line it up right. It looks a little bit off. See if that's right. That looks good enough. Now all we need to do is put our banner on there, and I thought I would just put it somewhere like that. Interfered with much, that's what I'm going to say. I'm going to put it right there, I think. Is that straight? It looks straight to me. Let's cut off the edge, and this card is done. I'm going to get my envelope and we'll be all set. Okay, all we have to do now is put I made this for you. The only thing we have left to do now is do our washi tape on our envelope, and we'll be all set with this card. And I like this technique. I thought it was a lot of fun, and I think I'll try it again on something else. But in the meantime, it was called negative space coloring, and I'll make sure that I link Jennifer's video to this one so that, you know, if you want to see the real McCoy, you definitely can. And in the meantime, this is mine, and I'll make sure I also link you to my friend Elishia's webpage so that you can see what she does with this jukebox stamp. I hope you really enjoyed this. I thought it was a lot of fun, and I hope you did too. And I hope you'll subscribe and tell your friends about me on social media. Actually, just tell one friend. That's all I'm looking for. You tell one friend, and they tell one friend. And that's how we'll get to our 3,000 subscribers this year. I would really appreciate it. And thanks so much for watching. Bye-bye.